Okay, so I'm Anthony Flemmer from Defence Logic. We're, I'd say, a smallish cybersecurity company. We've been going for 7 years. And what I always found when I knew nothing about cybersecurity when I started the company, which was probably the craziest thing I've done in my life, but everyone's got to do something bad in their life. And I've been in banking, doing project management. I thought I knew everything about being an entrepreneur. That's another story. But so we started the company, and they would say, "Oh, there's a lot of things going wrong, but they don't want to tell you anything." And I found that really frustrating because, what is actually going wrong in these really not very large companies like law firms and little financial services companies, and so I thought, well, that was one of my big frustrations was, what is actually going wrong with these small companies, because nobody's telling us. They just say, "Oh, they're insecure." So this is basically a list of probably 10 stories that I've got on where I don't divulge the company's names. I just sort of give them a sector, because some of the sectors I've purposefully misleading you guys so that you can't draw names to those companies. So I'm keeping everything sort of confidential, but I'm trying to share some stories with you so that you can actually so it's just story time, guys. This is going to be the least technical talk you're going to get all afternoon. So if you're wanting technical talk, that's the way to go. All right, so now let's get on to the first story. So I really enjoy this one because I was down in South Africa looking after some clients down there, and I get this mad panicked call. The NCSC has phoned up Jersey Telecom, and they've gone to this. What am I saying again? Story. Just keep my story straight. This engineering company, and they have literally cut off their internet access. If you know anything about engineering companies, they've got massive CAD drawings that they've got to send around. So these people, tiny little company, 10 people, trying to send their drawings over their mobile data. And so they thought they could do that for a while. Then they thought they could just go to another IT provider, and the JT guy said, "No, we actually control the whole of the internet in Jersey, so you will still be cut off within in a few seconds. So you need to fix this problem." So they came to us, and we're like, "Okay, what actually is going on? What's going on here?" So we go in there, and we're like, "Okay, router, 10 years old, unpatched, Dracon. I don't even know those things exist." And then we said, "Okay, well that's anyone can make that mistake." We go and we start looking at, they've got Apple. Yeah, so because we've got Apple, and I think no one can ever hack Apple, we decided to turn the antivirus off for Apple. This is absolutely unbelievable. So they were going from bad to worse. Then we're looking a bit further, and we said, "Okay, so why have you got these 3 RDP ports open?" "Oh no, that's our IT guy. He just logs in from home." I mean, Jersey's only 9 miles long or wide or whatever. So I don't know how lazy this guy was. But he's so lazy, he didn't even put a password on this thing. There's no password, open access, no antivirus. I don't even bother about updates. I don't even know that is the thing that happened. And so these guys became like a spamming central station for the whole of Europe. That's how the NCSC picked them up. Little old Jersey, this tiny little company of 10 people, it's just like spamming millions and millions and millions of emails out of one of their own Apple servers. So it was like, okay, obviously I'm going to charge you like a wounded buffalo, because that's the kind of guy I am. And so we went in, got them a new router, told them get rid of their IT provider, no ports, turn on your antivirus, and that's literally all we did. But I mean, what the trauma, and then we had to obviously write a report. Yeah, it's all good. And then they could get their online access going again. So this was a naive belief that I'm so small that no one's actually going to give a rat's ass about what we do. But turns out they do. Yeah. Next story. So this is another one that I also found quite amusing. I've got a few phone app stories. This was a friend of mine. I can say that here because you won't know who my friends are. And she was like, "No, I've got these," typical South African, "got these great app developers. They'll be fantastic. My app is secure and it's brilliant." Anyway, I was like, "You need a pen test. You really do need to get a pen test." Like, no, because lots of sensitive data sitting behind this app. Children's health data sits behind this app. And I was like, no, you can't be doing this. And so she comes along, and eventually some client says, where's your pen test? Because she's trying to sell into these corporations for them to use her app. So we do the pen test. Okay. I really need to get this done urgently because I need to get this into the client. Yeah, okay. We'll do it for you. Do the pen test. Literally, within 2 hours, Richard phones me up. He says, I'm into their database. We just got the APK off Google. We're into their database. What do you want me to do with it? Delete it, export it, encrypt it, can do anything. So anyway, write up the report. And, so she gets the report. Oh, that's not a nice report, Anthony. And said, no, that's not a nice report. I'm sorry, you are a friend, but that's what it is. And so she says, okay. So they start fixing it. It takes them 6 months to fix it. But during that period, I get these phone calls. Can you write an attestation that everything's okay? No. We only do that once it's fixed. Then we test it, and then we tell you it's okay. So, the whole sort of naivety of the process and how long it was going to take. But I suppose the overriding lesson here was that sort of when developers are good at developing, it doesn't mean that they're good at security. And when I actually spoke to the developers, they were under a lot of pressure to deliver functionality on like a daily basis. They could not care about security because they just didn't have the time, the money, or the bandwidth to do it. So it's just getting that priorities right for both of those. Yeah. Okay, just be careful with it. Yeah, I'll tell you when to press it goes through. So I've one more. So this is an interesting story. So little bit of audience into action. How many of you think it's illegal? So who thinks it's illegal to pay a ransom to a Russian ransomware gang? In America, yeah. No, this is an American story. Who thinks it's illegal to pay a Russian? So everyone else here thinks it's legal.
Unless they're sanctioned.
So you do know something. Okay, next, let's go. So, and again, this story is basically paying the ransom. So this is an interesting one. We've got partners that are instant responders, and they called us in. They said, okay, can you pen test? We're busy. This law firm has been ransomed, and we need to rebuild the environment. And they had quite a lot of people involved in this one. They had Mandiant, which would, if you ever get involved in an attack with Mandiant, you'll learn how slowly you can actually respond to an incident. It's quite incredible. We couldn't believe it's now been 5 days. These guys are desperate to get onto the next step. Can you guys? No, we'll get to it. And they're just charging unbelievable for us. Unbelievable. And so we're there, we're busy building up the system, and we didn't really know what the ransom was. So then the ransom comes through, and these guys, they're not wanting a lot, they're only wanting $10 million. So I'm thinking, wow, that's how are you going to do that? How are you going to pay these guys? So turns out if you go get a good lawyer in America who can then, with his extreme knowledge of Russian sanctioned gangs, say, this is definitely not one of the sanctioned gangs. He can write a letter to the DOJ to say, yep, you can pay these guys because they're not sanctioned Russian gangs. They're Russian, but they're not sanctioned. So then there was a bit of negotiation and haggling and all that. These are pretty slick operators, these guys. They only gave a 10% discount, so it was like $9 million at the end of the day. Then you've got to get organized somebody who can operate a Bitcoin wallet. That's a whole another part of this thing. And you've got your negotiator, and then you've got to pay these guys. So this organization actually ended up paying that. And the reason for that was if that data had got out, it was incredibly sensitive data. And if it had got out, their business would have been over. It's an end of business decision that they had to make. So the $9 million was happy to pay that. I've got another story about ransom. Not the law firm, but a different kind of industry, the resources industry. They got caught up in the movement one, and they also were going to get a ransom. Their ransom would have been close to $90 million. And they actually took the decision not to pay it because they thought they could pacify the impacted people with $90 million. And I think they made the right decision. So you don't always pay it. It's a business decision about how much pain you're going to take either way. And nobody wants to pay the ransom. But I guess when your business is going to go down the tube, you've been building it for 20 years, you pay it kind of thing. Right. So this is another. Sorry, watch my story. Sometimes I elaborate a little bit too much. So this is another little thing that we had. We did a little pen test down in the Caribbean, and we were scratching around. We got onto a standard user. They'd given us a standard user desktop within their environment that we logged in from from the UK, and we were able to hop across to another user. Got in there. And then we came across this file that was titled ads.txt. So we thought, that's nice. Admin credentials, probably. Go in there, open it up, and there was a password there. So we tried to use that to escalate our privileges. That didn't work. But what we did see was this very odd URL there. So we plugged that into the thing, jumped on there, and used that credentials. We land up in their banking system. Their banking system is there with the 155 million there ready to be executed on. And, so that is just very poor user hygiene in that environment that could have led to a massive loss if we weren't such nice people. Anyway, trying to quite nice test. So that's that. Okay, so these are little Japanese monkeys or whatever, because only Japanese thing I can find. We did a pen test for a Japanese law firm, and I suppose one of the most interesting things about that was, my pen tester isn't Japanese, and their whole environment was Windows Japanese. So he had to work his way around knowing Windows to the level that with all those Japanese, kanji icons, he had to actually figure out where the hell he was the whole time. But he'd been doing quite a lot of pen testing for quite a while. He was able to do that. So he went in there. We spent quite a lot of time on this test, and we were sort of escalating ourselves around, escalating privileges, actually moving around their network quite nicely. They had dark trace on there, which didn't really sort of pick us up on the way through, but that's another day, another story. And so we came to the sort of wash-up meeting, and we were like, we were able to move around, and we saw a few things, and we found this document that looks quite interesting, but we're not quite sure. I've got a feeling he might have actually known what it was, but he pretended he didn't know, and he sort of puts it up there on the screen. Like, can you just take that down? What's that? No, that's all the partners' bank balances for this massive Japanese law firm. So they're like, okay, no, we've got to get rid of that. And we've also got to put in a lot more controls, because we can't have people dancing around our network like that with that much of ease. So that was eventually we actually ended up putting a SIEM solution into that Japanese firm on top of the dark trace, which is for a bit of a kill. Well, that's it. Yeah, so this is a few years ago, and I suppose I naively hope that MSPs have improved their cyber hygiene, but frankly I doubt it, because I've seen a few things that have been a bit strange over the last. Asked MSP for a list of internal IPs that are getting used and a list of external. Waited 2 weeks and got a list of four external IPs. Like, how many more weeks am I going to wait for the list of internal? But anyway, this is a different story. So we've got this is a friend of mine, and she runs a very successful financial services company, and she asked us to come in and do a pen test. So we went in there, and we actually physically went into the thing, got onto their network, was scouting around there, and we actually discovered the MSP's password. And we thought, okay, well, that's just going to be the password for this particular organization. No, it was the MSP's password for their whole tenant. And the thing that absolutely annoyed me the most about this was these guys' branding and everything was, we take data security seriously. We're data security specialists. And that was their whole sort of go-to market. And this is what they do. Anyway, obviously you give them their password back. They don't even acknowledge that it was an issue at all, and they completely blank you when they see you in the streets. But that's just another thing. So yeah, next story. Okay, so this is probably one of the more bizarre ones that I've dealt with, and I just per chance got the inside track. And so these guys approached us. Their board had said, okay, before we go to market, we want the app tested. So we said, fine. But we know the app's rubbish. So I said, okay, that's nice to know. And but test it anyway. We had an outsourced partner. They were, outsourced, and we now bring it onshore. We know it's rubbish, but tell us what all the problems are. So we tested it, and obviously we found I think it was the AWS password sitting in the APK, which basically gives you full access to AWS. And so we thought, okay, well that's just absolutely ridiculous. You can't believe people are that lazy about the coding that you can actually pick it up. But they did that, and so we gave them a report, and I said to them, we can do a retest, or we can do another test. And I gave them a nice discounted price, and then they just sort of disappeared. So I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. Anyway, literally 2 years later, my son's working for a software development house, and these guys pop up again. So he said, Dad, I'm working on this particular app, but it's absolute rubbish. I said, those guys? He said, those? Oh, okay. I said, have they fixed this issue? He said, no, they haven't. I said, you've got to be joking. He says, yeah, and they're no longer just launching in the UK. They're now launching in another continent in the rest of the world. They're expanding their business and doing this. And it's actually a semi sort of financial app. It absolutely blows my mind. You've got a problem. It's vulnerable. You just complete. I don't know. So I think the board asked for a pen test. They gave it to them. But the board never asked for, have you fixed your problems in that pen test that you were given? So, it's absolutely crazy stuff that you get out there. Next one. So this is not probably the most exciting thing, but it happened quite recently. These guys were moving into the cloud environment, and they set up those sort of cloud desktops in there. So they said, okay, you come in and can you test our cloud environment? We've got these cloud specialist people to set it up. And I said, okay, that's fine. Go in there. So pen test is busy testing around there. He says, Anthony, all these virtual desktops, they've all got admin credentials. Is that correct? So I'm like, pretty certain that's not correct. I mean, why would you have that? Guys, is this? No, that's not meant to be happening. It's like just absolutely useless. I mean, luckily the guys did a test and we picked it up. But I mean, that could have, any other organization that could have gone out and they could have been having the AWS with everyone with admin credentials sitting there. And it was for third-party people logging in. It wasn't even their own staff, so it was brilliant. So that was one of the nice failures. And then this was a strange one. We did this for a large law firm of about 1,000 people. They wanted us to test their Citrix setup. So we said, that's great. They gave us a laptop where the Citrix was set up on. And as the Citrix was set up, it was set up, I think, on Windows 10 or whatever, or 11 at the time. And the Windows default setup had an SSH open port set up. So you've got all this nice Citrix functionality controlling your tunnel and everything, but with a nice open tunnel wherever you like. To sort of reverse proxy the data and exfiltrate it out. So you spend a huge amount of expense setting up the Citrix, but you've just basically left your back door completely open. So I honestly didn't think we were going to find anything in the Citrix test, because that's just it just shows, again, just poor configuration and getting set up with default. I think it was the default Windows setting at that particular time that created it. I don't know if that's changed, but just something to bear in mind with the Citrix setup. And this, just to sort of wrap it up at the end, there's a lot of automated testing going out there, and you need to just sort of balance that with some manual testing. And the manual testing will prod and poke where your automated testings aren't going to be looking. And we typically spend on a pen test about 80% of our time doing the manual stuff. The 20% we automate, we try and work it through like that. That's where you'll find these, well, generally, just about all of these things that I've been talking about are not vulnerabilities, but misconfigurations and poor usage. There's one more slide. Yeah, so one of the things that you've got to look after is your sort of make sure that your Active Directory privileges are properly set up, or whatever environment you're using and get people to actually test hopping through with their standard users, moving around the environments, because some of those Active Directory setups are incredibly complicated, and if you're not testing it from the other side, you're never going to know what's going on. Those are my stories for today, guys. Thank you very much. If you want to come and chat to me, please feel welcome. Thanks, guys.